morning. Well, thank you both for joining us. We're just going to wait a little bit longer to see if some others trickle in as well. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So welcome to West Virginia's Rare Disease Day event. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're excited to be celebrating the rare disease community with all of you. So we're starting off our events with a quick disclaimer, just noting that NORD is not a provider or a healthcare facility. So anything shared during today's event is not a specific recommendation or endorsement of any treatments or medical advice. So I will give you all a second to look this over.
It's also in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Great, so we're thrilled to have a great agenda with some great speakers that have joined us today. So we're going to kick off our event by sharing two quick welcome videos. The first video is an overview of Rare Disease Day and from our sister organization. And the second one is a welcome video from NORD's CEO. So I am going to turn this over here to Kristen.
Can you see my YouTube screen?
I can, perfect.
Oh.
I am Tristan.
Angelina.
Naweza Shafik. Hey Sheila.
Habari ya asubuhi Javi. Jag är Christian och jag bor i Norge.
I live in the United States of America.
In Australia.
Malaysia. No Brazil.
Tunaishi Kenya.
My passion is for fashion and design.
I love to dance.
Surutan.
Viajar e descobrir novas culturas.
Anapenda kunitazama nikipuliza mapovu.
Jag älskar idrott och spela spel med familjen min. Minhas paixões são minha fuga quando as coisas estão difíceis.
Ada hari-harinya apabila melakukan perkara yang biasa, akan jadi sangat susah. When your disease makes you feel isolated.
It's difficult to walk.
Och vara med på laget.
When I'm tired.
Afraid.
O controle da doença pode ser desafiador.
Atau mengecewakan bila saya kehilangan masa.
Muda muhimu sana.
But we learned to be resilient.
Para apreciar os pequenos detalhes que me trazem alegria.
Nikijua anasikiza hadithi na sauti zilizo karibu.
Mencari titik hubungan dengan masyarakat yang senang.
Bondade inabalável.
Support workers.
Asistente, mashirika ya wagonjwa.
Together,
Histórias compartilhadas que me libertaram das dúvidas.
Organizações.
Além do meu sintoma. Nós somos fortes.
and we are proud.
Okay. Oops. One more second, please.
All right, well, let's get started. Hello, I'm Debbie Drill, Director of Membership of the National Organization for Rare Disorders, also known as NORD. I am not only the
Apologies. Okay, can you see my welcome message from Peter now? I apologize.
Yes.
President and CEO of the National Organization for Rare Disorders. I would like to welcome you to our 2021 Virtual Rare Disease Day event. Before we begin, I'd like to send out a special thank you to all those advocates and others who have spent so much energy and time supporting the rare disease community. So thank you. The role of Rare Disease Day is to bring together advocates and patients from around the world to help tell the story about rare diseases. There are events like this happening virtually all over this country today, and some of the audiences that we're really trying to focus on are those in the state legislatures, where advocates and legislative people come together to understand the burden of rare diseases and the impacts it can have on them, and therefore build the appropriate legislation and pathway to make sure that bills are passed that support rare disease patients. As a matter of fact, NORD's doing that in a very focused way with rare disease advisory councils. We've got them set up down in 16 states and are building them in others. I think 2021 is going to be an interesting year for us. The reason I say that is because we've just come off of a very difficult year with a pandemic that's impacted the rare disease community in a number of different ways and has really shown some of the inequities in the healthcare system. For all of you that are watching today, the importance of the Rare Disease Advisory Councils is critical to the success of being able to communicate the story and the needs of the rare disease patient community. So in conclusion, I would really like to make sure that I recognize and thank all of those sponsors who have helped us make this day a reality. Without your continued support, none of this would happen. So a sincere thank you from all of us at NORD and the patient community. Taking part in events like today's are really important to the rare disease community, and we must always remember that alone we are rare, and together we are strong.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Can you all see my screen again?
Yep.
All right. Great. So unfortunately, our West Virginia Volunteer State Ambassador, Kenny Brooks, was unable to join us today because of some unforeseen circumstances. However, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge all of his hard work and dedication in planning this event. Kenny has also played a huge part in helping NORD establish a rare disease advisory council in West Virginia. So we're very thankful for all that he does for the rare disease community. We're also excited to share that we're seeking additional volunteer leaders and we're currently accepting applications from West Virginians who might be interested in being a co-ambassador or a community engagement liaison. So if you're interested in learning more about these roles, then please shoot us an email at policy@rarediseases.org. So we will have the opportunity for questions towards the end of this program if you would like to learn more. So Kenny reached out to West Virginia's Governor Justice and received a letter back addressed to him and the rare disease community. So we're thrilled to announce that February 28th is officially recognized as Rare Disease Day in the state of West Virginia. So we're honored that he took the time to write to us and appreciate his ongoing support of the rare disease community. So I'm going to briefly read the letter to you all. So Mr. Kenny Brooks, as governor of the state, the great state of West Virginia, it's my distinct honor to recognize February 28th, 2021 as Rare Disease Day in the Mountain State. It's projected that approximately 25 to 30 million Americans, including many West Virginians, suffer from some type of rare disease. These diseases offer challenges that are unique from more common diseases. The limited information available for rare diseases can often lead to a delay in diagnosis or no approved options for treatment. This can lead to individuals struggling with a rare disease feeling as though they've been left behind. It is incredibly important that we show support to our rare disease community, so these great West Virginians know that we will always have their back. As governor, I implore every West Virginian to recognize Rare Disease Day. Thank you for raising awareness in our state about this extremely important cause. Please accept my most heartfelt and best wishes and know that you have my support. Perfect. So I'm not sure if we have Fernando on yet. So I will go ahead and skip over that until he joins us. Perfect. So I am Anissa Reed, and I'm going to go ahead and do an overview of what a Rare Disease Advisory Council is and why they are important for the rare disease community. So let's start with the problems. More than 25 million Americans are living with one of the more than 7,000 unique rare diseases. That breaks down to about 1 in 10 Americans. So even though that may seem like a lot, state decision makers still have limited awareness of the issues and impact that rare diseases have on patients, their caregivers, and the overall healthcare system. So what's the solution? So NORD believes it's to create RDACs, a diverse body to advise state government on the common obstacles that the rare disease community faces. We see this as an enormous opportunity for government officials and the rare disease community to work together to develop resources necessary to prevent and address barriers in a strategic way. There are a number of differences between RDACs in each state. This includes the number of members on their council, varied members of the rare disease community represented on the council, differences in where the council works out of, funding, and duties and accountability mechanisms. So overall, each RDAC has the same goal, which is to support the rare disease community by increasing the voice of rare disease patients and caregivers at the state level. So to date, 16 states, including West Virginia, have passed RDAC legislation. We also have several RDAC bills that are currently being heard in other states at this time. So as mentioned, we're thrilled that we've been able to pass RDAC legislation despite 2020 being a challenging year. And we really want to continue increasing this number to give as many rare disease advocates a voice in state government as possible. NORD highly encourages that different state RDACs collaborate with one another to share ideas and best practices. So we plan to continue to develop and release different toolkits to guide everyone every step of the way in implementing an RDAC. One pages to provide in-depth information, hosting webinars, and we will convene additional meetings to support ongoing RDAC work. So in 2020, the RDAC bill, Senate Bill 269, was signed into law. Some of the duties that were listed on West Virginia's RDAC bill are coordinating statewide efforts to study the incidence of rare diseases. They act as the advisory board to the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services and the West Virginia legislator on research, treatment, and education relating to rare diseases, and researching and identifying priorities relating to the quality of and access to treatment and services provided to people with rare diseases in the state. So NORD worked with several amazing West Virginia rare disease advocates to get this legislation across the finish line. So we're very proud and excited to share that West Virginia has had that opportunity. So now I'm going to jump into an overview of an important tool that we use at NORD. So in 2015, NORD launched its state report card project. With a goal of evaluating how effectively states are serving people with rare diseases. So this year marks the 6th edition of the state report card, which was compiled using data current as of November 2020. So these are a few policy issues that NORD's report card focuses on. It's important to note, however, that these issues are not exhaustive. These issues touch on several critical and relevant policy areas at the state level. But with each issue included, there are still many others that are capable of impacting the lives of rare disease patients. So how do you find out where your state measures up? So you can select your state by clicking on this link here. Each state's page is also available in a printable version. So I'm going to share this short video that walks you through where to find our state report card and a little bit more information about it.
So here we have the landing page for the 6th edition.
And just to pause, can everyone hear that? Okay, perfect.
Anissa, the sound isn't working.
Okay.
I can hear it, but just a little bit more.
Okay, let's see. So it's off as far as it goes, unfortunately.
We will be sending out these slides and links when the recording is available for this call as well. Anissa, I don't know if you want to just share the website and just navigate a little on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good idea. So let me open this guy up. Great. So this is our new vamped up website. We've made a lot of different changes recently. So you are able to click on different issues, whatever you're interested in. So say we want to select West Virginia. And you're able to see what the average overall grade is for each issue. So for instance, Medicaid financial eligibility, we look at Medicaid eligibility for childless adults. So in West Virginia, they got an A on that for parents of a dependent child and so on. And then we took those grades after evaluating some data and we averaged it. So West Virginia has done a great job with the Medicaid financial eligibility. So as you can see, there are some things to work on, such as medical nutrition coverage for rare disease patients, out-of-pocket costs. And if you want to learn more about each of the issues on the state report card, then you can go ahead and click the link and it'll give you a breakdown of what exactly it is and what we're evaluating it based off of. So it gives you a lot of great information. And then we talk about how exactly we evaluated it, and it gives another breakdown here. So you're also able to have a printable version, which is exciting. Let me get my... Perfect. So does anyone have any questions on the report card that I might be able to answer? Oops. I apologize. I'm having a little bit of a Zoom malfunction here. Okay, great. So again, these are just some small snapshots of some policy issues that impacted the rare disease community in 2020. Current legislation and changes that have been made so far in 2021 have not yet been captured. So if your state recently passed legislation to improve one of the policy issues, they might not have a high grade on our 6th edition yet. So you'll likely see it changed in the 7th edition. The website provides a detailed overview of the data, as I mentioned, and you can learn more about each policy issue in that methodology section. So if you have any questions about our report card, then please feel free to reach out at policy@rarediseases.org, and we are happy to listen to any questions or concerns or thoughts that you might have. Perfect. So I first wanted to check in here to see if Fernando was able to join us. Okay, perfect. So let's see. So Fernando, are you willing to come off mute there?
There you go. Sorry about that.
Perfect. No worries. So thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to introduce Fernando. He's been providing a lot of support on the West Virginia RDAC efforts, and he's going to give a bit of an update on what that process has looked like and any updates on activities. So thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Fernando Energeski. I work for the West Virginia Hemophilia Foundation, but have recently been enacted the chairman for the West Virginia Rare Disease Advisory Council, which was a legislation we worked last year, just pre-pandemic start. A colleague of mine is also on the call, Juliana, that participated and helped get that legislation passed, and Juliana is also on the council. So due to pandemic, once the legislation did pass, which was a fairly uphill battle, nothing really happened with everything that was going on, and we were waiting on appointments to be done. And it took a while, which was understandable, but towards the end of November, the appointments started to come in, and we finally got things rolling. We just had our first meeting early this month. The meetings in West Virginia are scheduled to happen the first Friday of every month from 10 to 12. It is open to the public. Anyone can participate, and we are leaving some time for open public discussion. If anybody has questions or things that they would like to address, you will definitely have that platform. The reason why we wanted to have the council was to give voices to patients, and that's just a continuation of that process. So far, since we only had one meeting, we have not discussed a lot of in-depth questions. We are starting to gather some information, specifically about newborn screenings and any other legislation that could impact our community. We're looking at the telemedicine and broadband legislation that is in West Virginia right now that would help mitigate some of those aspects. But as you can imagine, the bill is quite extensive and it talks about a lot of different things. So we're still, sifting through to see where we can come in and not come in to provide. But we are still in the, baby steps. Happy to have some connections with some of the other rare disease councils throughout the country that we can rely on them to an extent to help guide us in the in the beginning stages, NORD as well. But if anyone has any questions or anything that I could help address, please let me know or send me an email, give me a call. I know Anissa has my information that she can share, and that's really where we are. We're still, like I said, we're still in our very early stages of what we're trying to do, but we have a really good group within the council. We have already made some legway with DHHR trying to implement a website that we could put specific information in there. So it's, even though for only one meeting, I feel like we're definitely in the right track.
Great. Thank you so much for that update. I really appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Fernando while we have him with us? All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Fernando, for joining us and for those updates. We're really excited and proud of West Virginia to continue working on those RDAC efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I am going to go ahead here and introduce our next speaker. All right, there we go. So we're really excited to have Tracy Pitcock with us today. She is a patient advocate in West Virginia. So Tracy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Oh, I think you might be muted.
I just saw that. Thank you. So let's start again. I was saying hi, everybody in West Virginia, all my rare disease family, sending a shout out to you. Stay strong. I am very honored to be able to speak today, and I've got some notes to help guide me. So if you see me like looking at my notes and stuff, that's just to help me remember. I do have some brain fog issues, and I do need to explain that I am a rare disease patient. I understand I may not look like a rare disease patient. And so a lot of people that have that invisible illness, they struggle with that. And people just don't understand when we have our good days and our bad days. Some of those bad days can get really rough. So I want to start off by just thanking a few people before I kind of share my story. So a big shout out to Kenny Brooks and all he has done. I met him in 2018 as a rare disease advocate in DC, and thank you so much, Governor Justice, for all your support for everybody with the West Virginia Rare Disease Advisory Council and all the efforts that you have done already, and just a good ways forward, that you continue to do that. And I just hope by the end of today that we'll be able to have even more support for our struggling families with rare disease in West Virginia. And I also want to thank Senator Capito and Representative Miller, who are on our rare disease caucus. So they get reports and attend meetings that are specific to rare disease. And also Representative Mooney and Senator Manchin for meeting with us and to understand some of the ways that rare disease families struggle. And I'm looking forward to representing the state of West Virginia again in 2020, and doing so virtually. So with that said, I just kind of want to get into a little bit of my story. And again, I just said that I don't look like a rare disease patient. It's too long of a story to really tell in this short time. I don't have slides. I don't have before and after pictures. But my life is filled with highs and lows, extreme accomplishments, and a few failures. And now this roller coaster that I've been on, it seems like it's more on this downward slide. I'm having to deal with more and more failures. As a type A overachiever, failure is like the last thing on my list. You know, it's trying to do everything to keep from failing has been my motto, and that no pain, no gain. So the whole I don't look like I have a rare disease or that I've had issues. Well, if you saw me in my early 80s, or excuse me, late 80s, I was an elite athlete, guys. I ran for the Indiana University of Pennsylvania's cross country team. I ran so hard in the Eastern Regional meet that I collapsed over the finish line, and they had to send the rescue team in to help me out. But you know, that got us a berth to nationals, so yay. You know, my efforts were not in vain. And but I drained my tank, and that's what it seems like I'm doing now every day with this rare disease. I am draining my tank to get through each and every day, and it's really tough. And I have to go back and thank, you know, my coaches for helping me train in the 80s and to really like be able to have that fortitude and the resilience to go above and beyond even when it's tough. So after my birth to nationals, I was starting to train for the Olympic trials in marathoning. And I thought, yeah, I'm going for it. This might be my first year, but I'm running 15 miles a day, 7-minute mile pace. I'm 5.8% body fat. I am a lean, mean fighting machine. I got this. And I noticed, I've had some flushing and some headaches, but no pain, no gain. We're 80s athletes, suck it up, no tears, all that stuff. And it was tough to answer people's questions when they were asking me, well, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. I can put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. I've played several sports, just taped up that broken bone, went back in, played, and then I showed them my hand all swollen after the game. So I've pushed myself to the limits, and that's kind of part of what I've been going through. So now we go into early 90s, and as I'm training for this marathon and I'm putting all these hours in and I'm doing all this stuff, my body's really kind of fighting back against me. And I notice I'm having more chronic issues. I'm having some inflammation in my joints. I'm having all kinds of stuff. Well, I also had some stomach pain that I was ignoring, and you're not supposed to ignore appendix issues. And so I start with my first major surgery of appendectomy in the early 90s. And I really don't recover well from that. And they don't know what's wrong. And they start using terms like, I believe you have chronic fatigue syndrome. And by the way, do you know you have the Epstein-Barr virus? And it's currently active in you, and it has affected the optic nerves in both of your eyes. And I'm like, no, I have no idea. And they're like, well, did you ever have mono? And I was like, well, I think 12 years old, I had to have a spinal tap, and I was in the hospital for a while. I don't know why, but something happened at 12. And so they're not sure if that's where the Epstein-Barr virus came from, but it just lies dormant in me. So I have this highs and lows that I have been on to try to manage those fatigue syndrome, because they actually had to take me off of all work. No running, no exercise, nothing. I was under complete bed rest because I was just so just filled with inflammation and pain and just not doing well. And so we go through the 90s, and I get to like start working again in 91. I have some successes again and fighting through chronic pain and headaches. And fatigue syndromes. I'm trying to manage when I have a lot of stress. I try to have equal amount of downtime. And then by the 98, I have my first child, and Tiffany was such a joy, but I struggled with her. I had toxemia, and so she was a preemie. She had to be born early. And then in 2000, well, my son, I had toxemia from the very beginning. It was a very complicated childbirth, and I had my third and foremost near-death experience. It was tough to get through. My blood pressures were some people's top were where my bottom number was, and my tops were in the 200s. It was rough. So in 2001, I had been stricken with just what I thought was a simple ankle injury, and it turned out to be RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And I spent a year pretty much non-weight bearing, partial weight bearing, and in physical therapy with a soft cloth going over my left ankle. And I'm trying to teach myself that is not glass shards ripping my skin apart. It was a really tough condition to try to get back from. I still have to manage some of those symptoms. And I know that I am very grateful to still have my foot and be able to be here. So 2002, I switched careers, and I know I have to go a little easier on myself. This is really tough, guys. I don't have a self-care. That is such a foreign word to me. But I go from being the main instructor to hiring instructors at the Parks and Rec. And that's my little guy, guys. And so then in 2004, I give birth to my third child, Joey Pitcock. And so with Joey, I do have some toxemia symptoms, but I have gestational diabetes, and I am now having to, here I am scared to death of needles. If you can imagine somebody scared to death of needles trying to give themselves a shot, it looks something like, oh my goodness, stop shaking your hand. It was scary. So I think that I'm through the worst of all of this. And then about 2010, I'm in a severe car accident in which from my neck down, I am paralyzed. I cannot move anything. I can feel people touch me. I was in the ICU for 4 days, and it was tough. I wasn't sure if I was able to. That's my protective dog trying to watch over mommy. And so it was tough for me, and the breathing, everything was tough, and I had to come back from that. And in 2011, I had what was just a simple cut, guys. You wouldn't even like probably put a Band-Aid on this, but it started getting red and irritated, and by the end of the day, I was just like, you know, what's going on here with this cut? And I start feeling symptoms of, oh my goodness, like nausea and almost like I got the flu, like all of a sudden. I'm like, in the morning, I was like, hey, let me go check on the softball team, to I'm not feeling so well. I'm gonna go home. I'm not gonna watch the softball game, which is very rare for me. So I end up in ER and spend the next 4 days fighting for my life and fighting for my leg, as I had cellulitis. During that time, I received information that my brother had passed in a motorcycle accident. So being in shock from the disease and then being in shock from the sudden loss of a loved one was tough to deal with. And during that time, I did have another near-death experience, as they were trying to provide me with support and antibiotics to try to save me. So through 2000s, up and down again with different illnesses, in and out of hospitals and stuff for other things. But in 2017, guys, I'm getting sick of this in and out of the hospital. I've spent pretty much, if I don't do the math very well, but if you can imagine, from the late 90s to 2017, I have been just kind of a medical mystery. Like, what is going on? So if anybody remembers that solar eclipse in 2017, I actually hiked the top of Stone Mountain in Georgia with a good friend and fellow supporter, Mary Botchman. And I prayed to God, and I just said, hey, God, I need some help here. Could you help my doctors figure out what's going on with me? I've got a lot to give. I'm helping about 25 different nonprofits because it helps pass the time and helps keep me from concentrating on the pain that I'm in. And so,
Tracy, I'm so sorry. So just so you know, we'll do about 2 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm almost done. So you're good. So so at the end of that hike and the end of the week of the solar eclipse, I'm in my first emergency visit for what turns out to be mast cell activation syndrome. I am covered in hives and it's in my face. My throat is itchy and I'm having what they told me was anaphylactic reaction. And I'm like, why? What's going on? And so I'm in and out of the hospital. They're trying to give me different meds and stuff to try to keep that calm down. I'm in that fall, I'm at I am a coordinator for Native American cultural events, and one of the wellness practitioners there saw me and she said, Tracy, come here. What's going on? Why do you have long sleeves? I had long sleeves because I don't want you guys to see all my hives. I'm trying to hide them. And so she's like, I think you might have mast cell activation syndrome. At the same time, the young doctor at the allergy practice that I was at, that they were just what is going on with this girl? We can't keep her off steroids. It's like, we gave her all this other stuff, but she still keeps going to the ER for emergency visits. And so they're figuring out that I have this rare disease called mast cell activation syndrome. You guys can read up about it at TMS for a Cure. Everybody has mast cells. They're a protective function. They help fight infection. The mast cell activation syndrome is very much being looked at for the people with long COVID issues. And so our TMS for the Cure is trying to work with them. So with the mast cell, you know, I have to have a whole team around me to work on that. And I think that is my message, is like, you know, I've had a history of medical issues. We have over 7,000 rare diseases. There's like 90% of these rare diseases have no cure. We're just trying to diagnose and try to have some kind of treatment, but there's really no cure. Of those, 50% are children's issues. And, you know, and of the children's issue, there's 30% of the children that don't make it to age 5. So we need a rare disease council. We need people there to support. I have no idea why the Newborn Screening Act didn't pass through the Senate. It went through the House. Thank you for all the House members that voted to pass that. But we need people, we need families, we need people to tell their stories, to try to help push legislation and bring this issues of rare disease to the forefront, because as they have worked on the mast cell, they were able to take some of that information, some of the information about how we go into that that cytokine storm, and be able to deal with COVID. So they had a little head start on COVID because of the work they do with the mast cell. And because of my brain fog, I was in a support group. So I thank everyone who runs a support group. I run the Navigation Life with Genetic Mutations, but I reluctantly at 3 a.m. agreed to go to a medical conference, and that medical conference was me becoming the rare disease advocate. I didn't realize I signed up for that. I thought I was just going to NIH. So I've been a rare disease advocate since 2018. 2019, my fellow rare disease advocate members that were with me noticed a severe decline in my cognitive abilities and my physical abilities, but they knew that, you know, I was there for the team and I was there to support all of rare disease. And so that's what my parting words are, to finish up quickly, is that, you know, we're all here with the rare disease community. What they may not find out with me for a cure, they may use that information to help somebody else's disease. So we just all need to be on the same team, and we very much appreciate you guys at NORIT.
Great. Thank you so much, Tracy. It makes such a difference hearing that personal story and realizing how important it is to have amazing advocates like you in West Virginia. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Really appreciate it. So it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Donna Corley. So Donna, thank you so much for being here today. Donna is also a great rare disease advocate here in West Virginia. So I will hand it over to you. I think you're muted, Donna, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself there.
There we go. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm actually from Mississippi. I was asked by Kenny Brooks to speak because we both do advocacy for arachnoiditis and adhesive arachnoiditis. I am the director of ASAP, Arachnoiditis Society for Awareness and Prevention. And it's just a small grassroots advocacy. We started out advocating for patients that were developing arachnoiditis. We've seen a big increase in patients with that from epidural steroid injections. We started having a lot of patients come forward stating that that's what was put on their reports and stuff like that. Of us went before the FDA and brought that to their attention and asked them to make changes to their guidelines, which later we found out their epidural steroid injections are not approved by the FDA. There were some small changes, but they did not put a ban on them for them to be injected into the spinal cord, the epidural space. So that's still been an ongoing fight. We're still advocating and basically trying to put forth awareness for patients to be aware that this can be a complication after epidurals after surgery. We've recently learned that even bulging discs into the spinal cord has an increased potential of causing arachnoiditis, which then can progress to adhesive arachnoiditis. For more information on that, you can go to arachnoiditieshope.com, and that has all the latest research on arachnoiditis, what causes it, and a lot of different ways to treat it. With that, we've also seen a link with EDS, linked to arachnoiditis patients, and also Tarlov cyst disease. So those three, through research that we've actually seen, has been a connection with that as well. But basically, I advocate for patients, you know, and trying to help them find doctors that'll actually treat them. The main problem that we have right now is doctors actually being willing to listen and understand that arachnoiditis is more than just an inflammatory disease. It's trying to get them to understand that if it is not properly treated once the accident or initial injury starts, that it can progress into something so much worse. There is no cure for it. I don't know that there ever will be a cure for it. The best we can do is try to treat it and try to keep it from progressing. For me, there's no stopping the progression for me because it took 23 years before I was diagnosed. So trying to keep patients from becoming that type of statistic, that is why I do this.
Great. Thank you so much, Donna. That's amazing. Thank you for all that you do in Mississippi as well. That was really powerful. Thank you. All right.
Well, thank you.
I am going to go ahead and move on to the questions portion. So if anyone has any specific questions about the rare disease community or what's been going on in West Virginia, then I want to definitely open it up, and also open it up if anyone else wants to share a little bit about their connection to rare diseases.
Hi, Anissa. It's Fernando again. I wanted to ask Tracy, she made a reference about the Newborn Screening Act. I don't know if she meant on a national level or a state level.
Mm-hmm.
If Tracy, if you could just, since that's something that we are looking to address, if you can, you know, if it's on a national level, it's a little bit different for us, but if it's on a state level, we can definitely, it's one of the things that we're trying to look at. So if you have any information, we would love to hear.
I had to unmute. Yes, I do have information. That is actually on the national level. We do have the support of all four of our all of our representatives from West Virginia up at the Capitol are all in favor of this. Our rare disease advocacy team went and met with representatives from all of the offices. And what it is that bill, it provides the funding to the state level. So we've got that as a federal side so that it can trickle down funds to help people at the state level to do those newborn screening. It's near and dear to my heart because I didn't know I was a celiac issue, had celiac issues. And if you can imagine, I was carbo loading galore doing those types of training mileage, and I didn't know why my stomach hurt so much, and I just thought I was hungry again or something. So that does have a lot to do with my autoimmune issues and the condition of my GI systems. So in the last year, I've had 5 surgeries to deal with some GI issues and other things. So it's at the national level, and I can tell you that I will leave the senator's name out, but there was a senator that had some issues with the, I'm going to say it, and you can translate it however you want. It's like a privacy of the families with where that blood goes after they do the testing. And I felt like you can't hold up such an important bill that could save lives and not have people suffer, families suffering, children, babies suffering because they did not able to detect a disease that could have changed their formula from a wheat base to a soy base. You know, that's wrong. And all you have to do is put on the bottom of that form, I agree to testing or I don't, and take it out of the federal hands and put it in the family's hands. If they themselves, if they have a religious disagreeing of what goes on with their blood afterwards, then let them sign no. But for the 99% of the people that want to make sure their family's healthy, let them check the box yes. And that's what I was telling the senators and the representatives when I was in DC last year.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tracy. Perfect. Does anyone else maybe want to share a little bit about their connection to the rare community or any other questions that our speakers or we can answer? Okay.
I was going to say, I have a question, and I don't know if this has to go into like, you know, further discussions of how to get things, you know, looked at. But I was telling you that I have a whole group of people on my wellness team that help me out. I know that there's a, that burden study went out, and that there's an act to fund the national burden study of how much it costs for rare disease families and the economic destruction, if you want to say it that way, of what a rare disease does, because we have a lot of out-of-pocket expenses.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that, you know, is there like for federal tax credits, insurance coverages and stuff like that to help cover the expenses? Like I have a special diet. I didn't go into the details that there's about 20 items that I can eat safely. The rest of the food items have some level of histamine, and it can put me in overload and send me into anaphylactic shock. So, so I know there's like the PKU Act is out, and so that helps fund that special food that they need. But I just think that we need to look overall at how everybody it really takes into effect. There's holistic medicine, functional medicine, mental health, traditional medicines. They need to coexist, and the insurance companies, you know, should have more coverage or a federal tax incentive or credit for the expenses that we have that other families don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the policy issues that we focus on our report card is that medical nutrition piece. So that really can vary by state, and it's something that NORD really advocates for, is making sure that patients do have that coverage. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to also, I will share my email, and I'm happy to connect on more of your questions that I might be able to answer when I connect with our policy team as well, Tracy. But thank you for asking. That's a great point. And that's, you know, the thing about state policy is it can look really different in each state. So.
And I think I did want to add one more thing because I am wearing it. I don't know that you can see that, but the Gabriella's 2.0 Act is coming up to vote on, and I encourage anyone who sees this, especially anyone out of state, to make sure that you are reaching out to your representatives, your senators, to cover that. We're not even asking for appropriations for this, but Gabriella 2.0 is from the Smashing Walnuts Foundation and Ellen Miller and her family, who lost their daughter, Gabriella. And it helps to get funding for all those rare diseases for children. And that's coming from, fines and stuff like that. It's not coming from, the national budget. We don't even need them to go into appropriations for this. We just need them to vote upon it and see the importance of funding that we need for rare disease and finding cures.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Great. Perfect. Well, anyone else, if they would like to share, then we'll keep it open, or any other questions that we can answer. Okay, perfect. Well, we do have a brief video to show, but before that, I wanted to bring this up. So after today's event, we're going to be randomly selecting 2 winners from the attendee list to receive the Rare Disease Day swag bags that are seen here with some really cool items. So winners will be contacted via email this week and receive their prize pack sometime in mid-March. So good luck with that, and let us know if you have any questions. And with that, I will turn it over to Kristen's screen, if that's okay, because I have been having some sound issues on my end. So I am going to.
Every year on the last day of February, the National Organization for Rare Disorders joins together with others around the world to raise awareness of the challenges faced by people living with rare diseases. Achieving health equity is even more difficult for rare patients. To have equity in health means everyone has an opportunity to be as healthy as possible, regardless of social, geographic, economic, or other obstacles that may be working against them. At NORD, we appreciate your support, which allows us to work on issues like health equity and many others, and for our staff and volunteers to bring them to the forefront on Rare Disease Day.
From the Volunteer State Ambassadors, we would like to say thank you to all of our Rare Action Network supporters for helping us connect with rare patients and families in our states.
And thank you for allowing the Rare Action Network to raise important issues with state lawmakers on Rare Disease Day and throughout the year.
Did you know that in medical school I was told when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras? But what about the more than 25 million Americans living with a rare disease? At NORD, we are humbled to provide help and resources to our zebras and their caregivers.
NORD support allowed me to catch up on some overdue bills, including my rent. Thank you for your support, NORD, and thank you for supporting Rare Disease Day.
From all of us at NORD, thank you for your dedication to the rare disease community on Rare Disease Day and every day.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kristen. So again, so we did get a message. I'm able to see my chat box here from Dr. Ho. So I want to be a patient advocate, but I'm not prepared to share today. So sometimes it takes a while for people to feel comfortable and ready to share their personal story and connection to the rare community. So that is completely understandable when it comes to sharing stories. And we're always happy to work with anyone as well if they want some help crafting a story or if they want additional resources. So but we're always looking for advocates to share to help with policy change. So feel free to reach out to us, and I will also drop my email. Oh, and then it looks like, let's see, Tracy, she just dropped a chat. So she has one more answer to a question. So I will give it to you, Tracy, if you'd like to say something.
I can't remember who it was. Sorry, brain fog. They asked on the state level what we could do. I think I want to further explain that this is the situation a rare disease person has. When they go into the ER, they, as the patient and their family members, they enter that ER knowing that they probably know more about their disease than 99.1% of the people that are in the room trying to care for them. So when you take a loved one to an ER for a cardiac issue or a broken bone or something, they've got a whole team of specialists and they know how to fix that. But with rare disease, there's often a lot of medical mistakes, a lot of like issues, like what's going on, like what is that, what's that rare disease? So I get a lot of people grabbing their cell phone and Googling mast cell activation syndrome. So it's scary when your provider is looking at a Google of what mast cell activation syndrome is. So the more support we get out there, the more support we have for the doctors, physicians. I know the Allergy Foundation has added like at least 10 more classes for the medical providers to continue to receive information about rare diseases and about mast cell. So support groups, anything from that Rare Disease Advisory Council that can help those families, because it is a scary situation when you have a rare disease and you need care. And so any support that can be given on the state level for that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's some great insight and feedback for us. And I just dropped my email in the chat. So Kenny, who again is our volunteer state ambassador for West Virginia, he's someone who's also great to reach out to if you have any questions or want to get more involved. And I'm also very happy to connect to answer any additional questions that you might have as they come up. So I will keep it open if anyone has anything else they'd like to share before we wrap up a little bit early today.
And I know that we had some folks join a little bit later. I apologize if anybody had the issue with the link. I think a couple people received the wrong link, so I apologize on that, but please forgive us. However, thank you all for joining. And I do want to just mention something we had said in the beginning. You know, our Rare Action Network is really reliant on volunteers, and we are seeking an additional co-ambassador for the state of West Virginia. It's a volunteer position. In addition, we have a volunteer role for community engagement liaison as well. So if anybody's interested in taking a more leadership role within the Rare Action Network program, you can contact really any of us, Anissa, myself, or Kenny even, and we can work with you to get more information.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Does anyone have any questions about what those volunteer roles might look like? All right, great. Well, happy to provide any more information via email or give me a call at any time. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Really appreciated all of your insight and support for the rare disease community. And we look forward to continuing to work with our West Virginia advocates. Oh, Donna just mentioned, so she runs 2 support groups on social media. And so for more information, it looks like you can contact her, and she just dropped her email address here as well. So if anyone wants to make note of that. Great, thank you, Donna. All right, well, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed speaking with all of you today and for all of your hard work in the rare disease community. So have a great day, everyone.
Good day.